Imo Deputy Governor Eze-Madumere impeached. House Speaker Yakubu Dogara rails against frequent electricity rate hikes. In international news, U.S. detects new activity at North Korea's former ICBM factory. And in sport, 27 countries to participate in Nigeria Open International Table Tennis Championships.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Imo Deputy Governor Eze-Madumere has been impeached. At least 100 security men in patrol vehicles were stationed at the State Assembly complex as journalists were barred from accessing the chamber. ANN's Lucy Adeyemi reports.
16 of the 27 members of the State House of Assembly voted in favor of his impeachment. The Assembly had received a report earlier by a 7-member panel set up by the State Chief Judge, which allegedly indicted the Deputy Governor. The action was carried out just about the same time a High Court judge in the state had barred the lawmakers from removing Madumere from office. Madumere's lawyer had filed a summons on Monday over what he said was a constitutional breach in the work of the panel. Judge Benjamin Iheka granted an interim order to halt impeachment proceedings to enable the court to first determine the issues surrounding the action. He adjourned the case to the middle of August. It is not clear if the order had been served on the National Assembly before impeachment action took place. The Deputy Governor was said to have had a continued political tussle with Governor Rochas Okorocha on an issue of succession next year. Madumere wants to be governor after Okorocha leaves office next year, but it is rumored the governor prefers and supports his son-in-law. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
Another impeachment took place in the northern state of Kano, where the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Alhaji Abdullahi Atta, was sacked and replaced by the immediate past Speaker, Alhaji Kabiru Rum, who himself was impeached on allegations of corruption. 2 principal officers were also impeached along with Atta. The action had been delayed because of state government's efforts to forestall the action. The Assembly had closed 2 months ago when threats were issued to impeach the Speaker. The House was in an uproar when the Deputy Speaker resigned and was replaced by principal officers. Impeachment case was reopened once the Assembly resumed. The new Speaker has assumed office on Monday. Meanwhile, it was a tense moment in Benue State House of Assembly on Monday when 8 lawmakers led by the impeached Speaker, Tekibro Iyanga, began the process to impeach Governor Samuel Ortom, whom they had accused of alleged fraudulent activities, non-payment of workers' salaries, and non-performance. ANN's Rotimi Akitude reports.
Some pro-Ortom youths were reported to have invaded the House to prevent the lawmakers from sitting, but were dispersed by security personnel. Lawmakers suspended 15 Ortom loyalists in the House. A factional group of 12 lawmakers led by Tekibiro Iyanga was reported to have decided to begin impeachment proceedings against the governor. He announced the decisions made by the group to suspend the 15 Ortom loyalists for 6 months and to give a notice of impeachment to the governor for impeachable offenses he had allegedly committed in the past 3 years. The group plans to send a notice of impeachment to the governor in a week. Well, the Ortom loyalists that were suspended by the Iyanga team held its plenary session at another location and decided to suspend the other 7 who suspended them. Governor Ortom described as provocative the actions of the 8 members that started impeachment process against him. Rotimi Akitunde, ANN News.
Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara has said that it is unjust to frequently hike electricity tariffs, even though the sector had received a 123 billion naira bailout. At a public hearing in Abuja, Dogara said paying higher tariff for power that was not supplied had become a huge burden on Nigerians who had become accustomed to living without regular power supply. The speaker said electricity tariff had continued to rise from an average 10 naira per kilowatt hour in 2007 to an average 24 naira per kilowatt last year. He said these increases were happening even without any substantial improvements in power supply. The House began taking steps last month to check alleged overcharges by distribution companies so consumers would have a fair deal. A bill which has passed second reading will amend the Electricity Power Sector Reforms Act. 35 suspected kidnappers, cultists, armed robbers and cell phone thieves have been arrested by the police in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, on Monday. They range in age from 18 to 31. FCT Commissioner of Police Bala Siroma said 5 vehicles, 4 firearms, 3 master keys, 1 cutlass, 1 knife, 4 phones and 1 camera were seized from the suspects. He said they will all be charged once investigation is completed. Siroma said crime fighting is not the sole responsibility of the police, so he called on FCT residents to support the police with information to achieve the desired results. The police commissioner also said the command will intensify its scientific approach to crime fighting as it's been in the use in FCT. Meanwhile, a similar operation was carried out in Abia State that has resulted in the arrest of 43 suspects who are accused of committing various criminal offences, including kidnapping and armed robbery. Commissioner of Police Anthony Ogbizi said the arrests were a result of efforts by the police command to ensure a peaceful and crime-free society. He also said the arrests were the results of improved synergy between the police and the state vigilance group. Ogbizi said among the suspects were alleged members of a group called Arrow Confraternity, a syndicate that specializes in car theft and other crimes. One of the arrested suspects confessed to the mother of a 56-year-old chairman of a local government area, whom he said were clubbed to death in retaliation for the disconnection of electricity service, on which he owed 9 months' arrears. In business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria has auctioned Chinese currency, the yuan, at between 49 to 51 naira. This is the first time the central bank has sold the Chinese currency. It is an attempt to make available an alternative trading currency. It is expected to be beneficial to Nigeria in light of the high volume of imports from China, which is the country's biggest trading partner after the United States. Last year, the volume of trade between the two countries was $9 billion in China's favor. Nigeria imported $7.5 billion worth of goods from China, while exporting just $1.5 billion in return. South Korea has completed a move to renew the Memorandum of Understanding on Mineral Resources it signed with Nigeria in 2004. South Korean ambassador to Nigeria, Lee In-turn, made this known when he visited the Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Abubakar Buhari. He said his country is ready to invest in the sector. The ambassador also said his country wants to collaborate with Nigeria in its mining sector, noting there are abundant mineral resources in the country. The minister told his guests that the Nigerian government was ready to learn from South Korea in the area of mineral development and economy. May find turmeric effective in defeating the effect. A new study by the University College and Imperial College, both in London, have found that a derivative of turmeric may be used in eye drops to treat the onset of glaucoma. The researchers found that the eye drops can reduce the loss of retinal cells in rats, signaling an early sign of glaucoma. More than 60 million people worldwide suffer from glaucoma, a condition which, if not treated, could lead to irreversible blindness in 1 in 10 cases. The researchers said longer lives mean diseases such as glaucoma are steadily increasing. They said their findings could make a major contribution in helping improve the lives of people affected by these devastating diseases. Stay with us, CNN News will be back after these messages. Welcome back. This is CNN News and African News. 5 Egyptian troops held hostage in Libya were freed on Monday in a joint operation by a Sudanese and Egyptian intelligence services. A Sudanese security official said the soldiers had been seized along the Egyptian-Libyan border and were held captive in southern Libya. The Egyptian military said they were part of a patrol that had gone missing. Brigadier Mohammed Hamid from Sudan's National Intelligence and Security Service confirmed that the troops were rescued at southern Libya, but did not say when the soldiers had been seized. The rescue of the Egyptian soldiers is expected to boost Cairo-Khartoum ties. The World Food Programme plans to buy 75,000 metric tons of maize from Tanzania in the next 6 months to expand market access to corn from the country. UN official David Beasley said WFP will buy more maize from farmers between now and the end of the year. He said they were looking for better ways of incorporating the private sector in supplying the crop. Beasley said they were working with the Dar es Salaam port and the Tanzania Railway Limited in shipment of food consignment, noting that improved efficiency at the 2 transport platforms led to lowering of transportation costs. Energy Regulatory Commission has announced Monday morning new electricity tariffs and the scrapping of standing charges. This means lower payments for Kenya Power customers. The new tariff cuts is an overall reduction of 6%. Low-income households, who constitute 3.5 million of Kenya Power customers, are the biggest beneficiaries, getting a 36% reduction. Commercial and industrial customers get a reduction of 4% in addition to the 50% discount in the off-peak tariffs and the proposed special economic zone tariff. ERC Director General says the review follows the need to accommodate more renewable energy costs and address the numerous complaints by customers. The European Union has extended its military training mission in the Central African Republic on Monday for 2 more years, pledging 25 million euros to help reform the country's defense sector. An EU Council statement said the mission contributes to security sector reform in the country and works towards modernized, effective, inclusive, and democratically accountable Central African Armed Forces. The mission, based in the capital Bangui, launched in 2016, will now continue until 2020. EU Council says the mission had already advised, trained and educated more than 3,000 soldiers, including giving strategic advice and operational training to the President's Cabinet, Interior Ministry, the police and the military. UN Security Council has delayed a plan to draw down the peacekeeping mission in Somalia on Monday after finding that Somali security forces were not sufficiently trained to take over from the exiting forces. About 1,000 troops in the African Union mission in Somalia deployed to shore up the battle with Islamic militias were scheduled to leave by the end of October. But the Council unanimously adopted a resolution postponing their departure to the end of February next year. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in a letter to the Council plans to cut troops were not realistic, noting that Somalia suffered the worst terror attack of its history in October last year. Niger Republic and Nigeria have recently signed a memorandum of understanding for the construction of a hydrocarbon pipeline and a petroleum refinery. The pipeline is to be constructed from Niger to a border town in Katsina State, Nigeria. The new refinery would process up to 100,000 and 150,000 barrels of crude from Niger Republic per day. President Muhammadu Buhari, after signing of the MOU, inaugurated a steering committee for the project to be co-chaired by Nigeria and Nigerian ministers. Buhari also inaugurated a separate team led by Nigeria's engineer Rabiu Suleiman, supported by Niger Republic's Hydrocarbon Director General, to develop the implementation roadmap and strategy for both the refinery and pipeline projects. We'll take a short break. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Madam, go and bring us your husband. Oh, Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to some international stories. U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday he would be willing to meet Iran's leader without preconditions to discuss how to improve ties after he pulled the United States out of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. In response, Iran said the way back to talk was for the United States to return to the nuclear deal between Iran and 6 major powers that Trump exited in May. Washington aims to force Tehran to end its nuclear program and its support of militant groups in the Middle East, where Iran is involved in proxy wars from Yemen to Syria. Iran and other signatories have been working to find a way to salvage the nuclear agreement, even as the United States has begun reimposing some sanctions on Iran. No U.S. president has met with an Iranian leader since Washington cut diplomatic relations with Tehran a year after the 1979 revolution that toppled the Shah, who was a U.S. ally. President Barack Obama broke a 3-decade freeze with a phone call to Rouhani in 2013. An American senior official said on Monday U.S. spy satellites have detected renewed activity at a North Korean factory that produced the country's first intercontinental ballistic missiles that are capable of reaching the United States. This is happening as talks proceed on ways to compel Pyongyang to give up its nuclear arms. The Washington Post reported on Monday that North Korea appeared to be building 1 or 2 new liquid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missiles at a large research facility on the outskirts of Pyongyang. The newspaper cited unidentified officials familiar with intelligence reporting. A bomb exploded in a van and killed 11 persons at a military checkpoint in the restive southern Philippines on Tuesday. Officials have blamed the attack on militants with ties to the Islamic State group. An army spokesman said a suspected bomber, a soldier, 5 paramilitaries and 4 civilians, including the mother and her child, were killed. 7 persons were wounded. The blast occurred on the island of Balisman. Moments after troops stopped the vehicle and spoke to the driver, who was alone in the van and likely detonated the bomb. The Daily Mail in London is reporting that a British man who killed 22 persons in an attack in Manchester at the end of a show by U.S. singer Ariana Grande was rescued from the civil war in Libya 3 years earlier by the British Navy. The newspaper says Abedi, born to Libyan parents, was thought to have been on holiday in Libya in August 2014 when fighting broke out and British officials offered to evacuate citizens. Abedi and his younger brother Hashem were among about 100 British citizens plucked from the coast of Libya and taken back to the UK. European Union countries have decided on Monday to move the headquarters of the bloc's anti-piracy Atalanta patrols from London to the Spanish port of Rota in March when Britain exits the EU. EU member countries also agreed to transfer at the same time the London-based Maritime Security Centre Horn of Africa to the French port of Brest. The centre informs shipping officials about piracy off Somalia. The security center will remain under the Atalanta command. We'll be back after these messages. Stay with us.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get the photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand,
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to sport. The Nigeria Open International Table Tennis Championships taking place in August is attracting competitors from around the world. So far, 169 players from 27 countries have signed up for the tournament, that an ITTF-sanctioned event. This year's tournament is the second highest prize money among the 9 ITTF Challenge Series. In the men's singles, 32 players made the seeding, with Nigeria's Aruna Quadri seeded #1. He is the highest-ranked player in the tournament. Russia's Alexis Livensov is #2 seed. Countries that will be represented include Brazil, Finland, England, France, Argentina, Hungary, Scotland, and Thailand. In the women's category, Olufunke Oshonaike is the only Nigerian that made the top 10 list in women's single. Iraq's under-16 football team had thought it could fool airport officials about the true age of its players, so some of them shaved to look younger. But the plan did not work, as Baghdad airport officials figured it out and realized there was something fishy about the football team that was heading to regional tournaments in Amman, the Jordanian capital. Many of the 23 Iraqi players heading to the West Asia Football Federation tournament that starts on Wednesday were found to be overaged. Iraq Football Association is reported to have immediately sacked the squad officials. An Iraqi football source said airport officials confiscated 9 passports after suspicions were raised over the dates of birth. Well, eagle-eyed airport officials. That is CNN News this evening. Thanks for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, cnnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.